Israel has dispatched 2 missile ships to the Red Sea. It's an attempt to deter Iran-backed Houthi rebels because those militias have fired multiple ballistic cruise missiles as well as explosive drones at Israel in multiple events, multiple rounds of missiles being fired towards Eilat and intercepted by the IDF. Now, that's a challenge because Eilat has become a refuge for many Israelis who were evacuated from the Gaza border region, many of which are survivors of that initial attack on Israeli soil. They now find themselves under bombardment once again. We're actually joined right now by Adele Raemer, a resident of Kibbutz Nirim, who survived Hamas's assault on October 7th. Adele, thank you very much for being with us. How are you feeling right now?
Thank you for inviting me. I'm not a person who scares easily. I went back to my kibbutz yesterday to get things, even though I know that it's not completely safe. It's a closed war zone. And we came to Eilat feeling that we have a place of quiet, of where we can relax, we can let our arm down, let our guard down, and now we hear this. It's disconcerting, but you know, this has been my answer all along. I've taken hundreds of people to my community, to see the community, to describe what life on the border is really like. And when people say, well, why do you live so close to the border? Why do you live where you do? It's so dangerous. I tell them, where is it safe in Israel? Where can I go? Tel Aviv gets rockets. Beersheba certainly gets rockets. Ashkelon, Jerusalem gets rammings and knifings up north. And now in Eilat. It's just... This is the reality of 2023 and radical Islam raising its ugly head and deciding that this for them is the time to try and get rid of us.
Is there a fear from people in Iraq, a lot from your family? Because it's not just rockets this time. We're talking about much bigger missiles, much more advanced things coming from the Houthis in Yemen. Does that change the equation for you?
What equation? Where to go? What equation? It is what it is. Where can you run away to? You cannot run away from terror. It's scary. I mean, I'm hearing impaired. I was woken up in the middle of the night by this humongous explosion. It was hard to fall asleep again, but I did. I'm not. There's no choice. We have to learn how to just take a really deep breath and let the IDF do what they know how to do. And it's going to take a lot for the IDF and the government, the country, to let us rebuild our sense of security, certainly where we live. I don't know when we're going to go back to where we live, but in general, to help us build back the resilience that we had and the feeling of security that we had, that Israel is the safest place in the world for Jews.
And I want to commend you and your family for that resilience. I also want a chance to talk to our audience, to let you talk to our audience, to describe what you and your family had to endure on that fateful day that led to this point.
It started at 6:30 when we started getting incoming rocket alerts, warnings, which give us 0 to 10 seconds to get from wherever we are into the safe room. Because that's how long it takes from the minute you hear the alarm until the minute you hear the explosion. So I ran to my safe room where my son, who was visiting me, was already sleeping. And there was it's usually 1 rocket, 2 rockets. We usually close the safe room window, but it was such an intense barrage, we daren't even stand up to close the window. We closed the door. And then about 20 minutes later, we got notification that there were terrorists in the kibbutz, that we had to go outside the safe room to close all the doors, all the blinds, all the windows, lock the doors, to go back in our safe room and lock the safe room door, which you cannot do. The safe room is built to be safe from rockets, and the lock, the click that it has, clicks it with prongs into the ceiling and the floor, so that if a rocket hits the house, it won't implode and blow the door open. The safe room is not built to protect against infiltration. The only way that you can, to some extent, protect against infiltration is by physically holding down that handle on the door and hoping that the terrorists on the other side aren't stronger than you and won't be able to open it. So we sat there petrified, waiting for terrorists, and all the while hearing automatic gunfire outside, things that we're not used to hearing. We don't usually hear within the kibbutz. And we heard Arabic. We heard the terrorists talking to each other outside. And there's an internal messaging system where we're seeing messages house by house, neighborhood by neighborhood. People are screaming for help. Call the army, call the Air Force, call the fire department, the police. Where are the people that are supposed to be coming to save us? Crickets, nothing. Nobody's coming to save us. We realized that we were on our own. We did not have a weapon. Neither my son nor I have had a weapon with us. So we just sat there petrified, waiting for the terrorists to enter our house. At one point, my son heard Arabic, and he understands a little bit, and he heard them saying, "Come here." We didn't understand what that was all about. About an hour later, when I could not hold it in any longer, I opened the door. I had to go to the bathroom, and I saw the slats on my window busted, which means that when we heard them say, "Come here," they were trying to enter my house, and someone called them away. Another terrorist called them away. My son-in-law was in his house with my 3 granddaughters. He's one of the first responders, so he did have a weapon. And thank God he did, because when the terrorists entered his apartment, he told the girls, "Cover yourselves with the blanket. Don't make a noise. You're going to hear a loud noise, but don't run after me." These girls never listen. They did, thank God. He stepped outside his safe room and shot the terrorist with his own hands, protected his children. We were on our own, 4 brave men who worked amazingly well together against tens. Somebody said 50, somebody said 60. Nobody knows exactly how many there were, because there were terrorists and there were just looters and destroyers, people just wearing street clothing and regular Gazans who decided to come and wreak havoc in the community, shooting up cars, bashing windows, destroying everything, stealing things. So these 4 men held the point from 6:30 in the morning until the army started arriving at 1:30 in the afternoon. We have 5 of our community were slaughtered. 5 of them disappeared. We don't know anything about their whereabouts or their situation. One we saw on a clip. Well, I didn't see the clip. A picture that the media showed. One of those women, the 3 women in that clip, are one of our kidnapped, Rimon. And now we're in Eilat. We are refugees. We left with practically nothing. We had an hour. We were kept in the kibbutz. We weren't able to be evacuated until 3 o'clock the following day. And all the while under fire we didn't know if they'd gotten all the terrorists, but we were still getting incoming rockets. I did not believe I was going to see another sunrise.
I don't
People
really.
said goodbye to their children, goodbye to their families, sent messages, "I love you."
It's the sort of terrifying situation. I just don't really have words to answer, to give comfort. I guess the best I can ask is, since then, what sort of message do you have as someone who lived through this, as somebody who's still living under fire in Israel South? What's your message to your fellow Israelis at this time?
I still believe that Israel is the only place in the world where Jews can be free to protect ourselves. And many, many tragic mistakes happened. I trust my country, my army, my government to figure out what went wrong and to fix it, because this can never, ever happen again. And when the Palestinians say from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. That is a genocidal war cry, and we really need to take them at their word.
Well, they've certainly showed that they mean it, Adele. I'm glad you could be with us. I'm glad you can explain everything that we saw and remind our viewers, people around the world, just what it is that Israel's fighting for. Thank you for staying strong through all of this.
Thank you for your support and the support that we get from abroad. It helps. It truly helps.